I'm gonna talk about our final project, the flower recognition model we built. Due to the coronavirus, we didn't have enough chance to really have a spring break and feel the vitality of nature during the semester. Therefore, when we finally have a chance to go outside, I paid more attention to the views that I used to ignore. However, it is really embarrassed that I cannot tell the name of many kinds of flowers. That is why we get our inspiration of our final project for this course, and luckily we then learned CNN model, which could process images and make some classification. It will be helpful for someone who had been in the same situation as we were before. We will use the data from this website as we shown in this screenshot. It contains RGB images of 5 kinds of flowers: daisy, dandelion, rose, sunflower, and tulip. For each category, there are about 800 images. Photos are not high resolution, about 320 by 240 pixels, and they are not reduced to a single size. They have different proportions, so we have to resize them as one step in our data pre-processing. In our project, our aim is to build a recognition system that will uniquely identify and verify flower based on their features. Once one picture flower is input in our system, computer will output what kind of flowers it is, based on their color or petal shape. Our model is simple and straightforward. The pre-processing step include data normalization and augmentation. We resized all the images to 128 by 128 pixels, and also at the beginning, we didn't use data augmentation methods to process data, but then tried horizontal flip due to the overfitting situation. For the next step, we tried to build a CNN model from scratch. However, the results were not quite ideal, so we then tried to apply a classic model VGG16 as we learned during the second half of the semester. The reason why we used VGG model is that it could speed up our building progress because the VGG16 is a very mature model. It could also deliver better results with relatively small dataset. We could just borrow the model that someone tuned before and borrow the first some layers, hidden layers, and just tune maybe the last hidden layers. It could save our time. The first model we used was a model built from scratch, a CNN model. We had 4 hidden layers and 4 dense functions. The convolution shape for each layer was 32, 64, and 96 for the last 2 layers, which are the most common setting for image classification task. The activation function we used was ReLU, and the polling size we used was 2 by 2. The 4 dense function was size 512 and 128, accompanying with ReLU activation function. The softmax function was used as last dense function with size 5 as the output layer.
So here is the result of that model. So you can see here the training loss can be very low at the end of the training process, but in the meanwhile, the validation loss starts to increase after 50th epoch. And also from the accuracy graph, you can see that the training accuracy can be very high, very close to 1, but the validation accuracy is always between 0.4 to 0.5. So we think there is a overfit problem in our model. So then we apply L2 regularization and dropout later. We set the valid decay to 1, and we add 3 dropout layers in the linear layers. And we want to see if they can help us to reduce the overfit. So here's the result. Actually the performance is not much better. The validation accuracy only slightly increased for about 0.1 to 0.2, and the validation accuracy is still about 0.5. Yeah, then we try to apply data augmentation. And so we use the horizontal flip, and we set the rotation range to 90 and zoom range to 0.5 with shift range to 0.2. Actually, the result of this model is even worse than before. It slightly decreased the validation accuracy for 0.2, and the test accuracy now is 0.46. So after all this, we start to think that maybe it is the problem with the model. Maybe the model is not too deep. So we want to use some classical model. And we choose the VGG16. Also, we apply the transfer learning because we don't want to train the whole neural network because it has many parameters. So we freeze the first 4 layers and train the left 12 layers. And because it takes much time, so we only trained for 50 epochs, but you can see after 50 epochs, the model is still I think it's at its best performance. And you can see the training accuracy is very high, very close to 1. And the validation accuracy increased a lot, which means that the performance is much better. It's about 0.7. But we still think it is not good enough. So maybe after that, we may try it with VGG19 or another model and see if it can raise the validation accuracy to 0.8 or higher. Thank you for listening.